Yeah, it was actually with skydiving is something that my gym buddy and a couple of people from the gym many years ago, we decided to do it on the Gold Coast in Australia. And
Oh, I bet that was
yeah, it
beautiful.
was, I thought it was fantastic. Just also when you look at all the safety and the preparation, like we did half a day of training, as you know, before you even go up there.
Mm,
And then I found it to be the most extremely adrenaline rushing moments when you're jumping out, like free falling, and then the most peaceful, calming experience when the chute opens and you're just floating. It's like two extremes of experience in one activity.
yeah,
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 exactly.
exactly.
I was
I
nervous.
was
I'm not gonna
nervous.
lie. And when I showed up, I picked the latest one,
Latest one,
assuming I was gonna
assuming I was gonna
fall from the sky
fall
and
from the
watch the
sky and watch
sunset.
the sunset.
It didn't work
It
out
didn't work out
perfectly like that,
perfectly like
but
that,
but
but
that was the that
that
was
was
the
the
plan. I'm glad that I picked the one that
one that
was launching the
was
latest
launching the latest.
because when I showed
When I
up,
showed up,
you had all
you had
these
all these
folks that were
folks that were
there,
there
rolling up their
rolling up their
shoots and
shoots
everything
and everything.
like they just got
They
back from
just got back
something,
from
and
something,
I'm just
and I'm
observing,
just
right?
observing, right? And
What I
what
observed
I observed
was,
was,
hold on, these
hold
same
on,
people
these
that are
same
rolling up
people
their
that are rolling
shoots are
up their shoots
going
are going
again.
again.
Okay. And then you're in, you go through, I don't know how, I did do a half day of training, Ed. Like that's intense. I think I did about 30 minutes of training.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And maybe an hour, but when you're doing tandem, you just don't get in, like, don't do anything stupid, like flailing your hands and knocking out the guy that's actually just supposed to save your life. And, you're fine. Right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it than that, obviously, but you got to move your hands and your legs in a certain way. But I was very keen on just listening on, all these other people. There's about maybe 10 other people that were jumping in this small plane with us. And yeah, that like five of the people that were going up, probably more, were like, yeah, this is the 10th time we did it today. And this is my like 200th jump. I'm getting certified to be a skydiving instructor. And I'm like, well, if they're going 10 times in a day, I think it's safe enough for me to go once,
Yeah.
I was still nervous jumping out because it was 20 some thousand feet high. But man, I tell you, when I got down from that, I had the craziest high. Like I could do anything like life high for probably good 2 months. Like
Well,
I want to go again.
20,000 is a huge, like that's a really high skydive. What the free fall must have been 90 seconds or
Yeah,
something
it was
like,
about a minute and a half. Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, that's crazy. Ours wasn't that high. I think on the day there's a little bit of cloud, so they kept it at 13,000, something like that. We got maybe 45 seconds of free fall, but that was still pretty good.
Yeah, it was about a minute and a half. And then it was just, is it locally in the area here near Virginia Beach? So it was just a beautiful, the guy was telling me like where things were like that I'd normally drive to.
Yeah,
So it
wow,
was pretty
wow, wow,
cool. Yeah.
wow. Anyway, Chuck, so for those people that are just kind of tuning in and seeing what's going on here, this is how we roll. We have regular chats and talk about interesting things. The name of this podcast slash vodcast is Wellness Warriors. And that doesn't just mean us. It means anyone that's into health and well-being lifestyle and wants to make some improvements. And what we're reflecting on now is some extreme activities that we've had. Just on the back of, I went to a theme park today, and I mentioned to Chuck a few minutes ago, I went on the most amazing and extreme roller coaster I've ever been on in my life. It had corkscrews, it had double turns, it had 90-degree drops of like 120 meters or something like that. Oh my goodness, incredible experience. And that moment, like actually when it goes to the edge, after you go up the ramp
Mhm.
and flat like this, and then they let you hang over the edge. I was in the front row and they let you
Yes.
hold there for about 3 seconds. And at that moment, oh my God, what everything that's all the emotions and the adrenaline is just pumping through you. And then when it free falls, it's just incredible. And then we're also reflecting on skydiving as well, because fortunately we both had the opportunity to be able to do tandem. I did mine on the Gold Coast in Australia. Where was yours? Was it local to where you are?
It was.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah.
So like the
So
Suffolk,
like the
Virginia
Suffolk,
area.
Virginia area.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the scenery around that, is that like mountainous or you get to see the ocean
Well,
from up in
it's
the...
about
It's about
25, 30 minutes
25, 30
inlet,
minutes.
so you don't see too much of the ocean, but you get to
You get to
see sort of the
see sort of the
neighborhood and
neighborhood,
the rural areas before you hit the ocean. Lots of
Oh, yeah.
trees,
lots of trees,
lots of
lots
development.
of development.
But yeah, it's still very beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess when I think back, when you're at 13,000, 20,000 feet, whatever, you're not really taking in the view at that moment, are you? You're thinking, oh my God, am I going to survive this?
Well, when you're at 20 feet, all you see is clouds, which was crazy cool. I mean, you literally falling out of the plane, falling because I didn't jump. I think I was probably like, no, last minute, but you're just seeing clouds. You're above the clouds. So you just go through them. This is the coolest thing ever, man.
And you mentioned
I
when you yeah, you mentioned when you hit the ground and everything kind of sort of calms down, then you've got this incredible sense of I can do anything, right?
yeah, I mean, to the point where I feel like talking about it right now makes me want to just go do it again tomorrow. From a mental health perspective, it's probably got to be one of the best things that you could do. Uh, you know, wouldn't matter what you're going through at the time. If you could jump out of an airplane and survive, your body's just like, this isn't normal. Your mind is probably a little confused too. Like, hey, dude, if you could do that, you could whatever's going on in your life, it is what it is. Like you're fine. So like, you nailed it perfectly. It's just you go through a lot in a short amount of time emotionally. So I think that is also euphoric as well when you hit the ground. You're terrified, and then you're like have the best moment of your life, like scenic wise, because you're at a viewpoint where you've never been in your entire life, and you're not attached really to anything other than this plastic
Yeah.
parachute. So yeah, it's a one hell of an experience.
Yeah, it's as close as you can get really to, I guess, being connected to nature and putting all of your trust into the
A
process
stranger.
or into what you're doing. Like everything is out of your hands. I mean, as a tandem guest skydiving,
Mhm.
everything's out of our hands. If we were actually controlling the shoot, we do have some element of control, but yeah, you're putting your life in the hands of another person. That in itself is quite incredible. And Chuck, when I was at the theme park today, we were there all day. There was a lot of observation going on, different rides and different people and different families discussing should we go, shouldn't we go? And you really start to look at the different thinking processes of people. Hello.
This is what
Hello,
you
kitty
get when
cat.
you work from home. Hello, viewers.
Yeah,
This
like
is Manny.
yeah, nice. Ginger
It's my
cat.
therapy cat.
Yeah, good. You can take him
I just
traveling
messed
with
up
you.
your whole speech, man. I'm sorry.
No, man, no,
Well, I
not at
didn't, but
all.
this guy did.
No, I'm enjoying watching that. That's like we're just talking about getting close to nature, right? So if you
Yeah.
can hug an animal,
This
that's
is my little lion. This is my little
yeah,
lion, dude.
yeah, cool. Yeah, no, so what I was just saying, Chuck, is that like you're observing the way different people are making decisions about should we do this or shouldn't we do it. And then even within a family unit, you've got maybe a daddy says, okay, let's go on this ride. And then maybe one of the children is brave enough to go. Maybe the mum or one of the other children not brave enough to go. And then you've got people that just very quickly make a decision. Oh, look at that ride. That looks amazing. It looks super super scary. I'm going on it. Like you got those people that don't hesitate when they've got an opportunity to do something that is pushing the limits. They absolutely jump at the chance. And then you've got the people that negotiating with themselves and discussing, and they take time, and they may go and they may not. And then you've got the people that look at something and they say, "I'm not going on that,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of similarities with like people's behavior when you see an environment like that to the real world as well. Whether it's business or
True.
taking on challenges or starting a new job or anything like that. Like there's people that just jump in and go for it, and let's see what happens. And then you got the people that take that time. Then you got the ones that refuse and they will just stay in their comfort zone for many, many years.
That's somewhat serendipic. Is that am I saying that right?
Yeah, yeah, I believe so. I understand what you mean. Yes, serendipitous, perhaps.
Yeah. So, after we put the kids to bed last night, we watched, my wife and I watched a documentary called Don't Die. Have you seen that?
No.
No? So, it's about this tech billionaire who wants to, essentially, he's obsessed with all the longevity supplements,
Oh,
therapies,
oh yeah. Is
gene
that Brian?
therapies.
Brian somebody?
Ryan
Brian?
Johnson. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing a lot of him online at the moment on social media. I'm seeing his
Yeah.
videos popping up.
Watch that.
So,
Watch that documentary. It's really well done. And the biggest takeaway in that, for me, there's lots, but the biggest takeaway that set, especially serendipity to what you just mentioned, to compare it to the theme park and people making different decisions, is he realized even as a successful tech entrepreneur, he wasn't happy and his
mm,
mind was in control. You know, his mind was basically running his life, and he realized that he wanted to separate from his mind. And this has led him down. He sold his business, he got a divorce and moved to California, and he's basically just obsessed with figuring out for all of us in society how we can live longer. And he's getting a lot of heat for, being rich, and rich always just want to, like, you know, have baby blood and transfuse that into their bodies, and and then that like they paint it so evil. But he really does seem like he's coming from this place of, no, actually, I'm a guinea pig for the benefit of society. I'm obsessed with this. I'm trying everything, and I'm doing it so that eventually what I'm doing, yeah, it may be very expensive and only I can afford it. But if it works, I'm the closest thing, the fastest thing they can get to a human trial. So,
mm,
eventually this might be available for almost everybody to use at an
mm,
affordable, because maybe a health start that thing go faster. So I think he's really doing some special things. But yeah, that mind aspect, it's something that I'm currently trying to battle myself, right? So trying to figure out, I think we all are, how do we walk up to a roller coaster that we're normally scared of, and essentially tell our minds to shut up and just go on it and
mm,
see what different experience you can have in your life, right? Like, not have the mind control what you do. That's what he's
yeah,
sort of mastered on his own. I'm more interested in that aspect than the longevity, although the longevity part really does attract me. But I really want to figure out how he's mastered his mind, because I think that's the $1 million question.
yeah. And I guess relative to that, we're all kind of living in our own reality, right? Like our the way we think and the way we feel and the decisions, everything that we're doing mentally essentially affects our quality of life. Like we're living in our mind. And something interesting happened today. The Australian Open tennis is on presently in Melbourne, Australia. I'm a big fan of tennis. There's for the last 20 years, there's been three super players, let's say. There's been Rafa Nadal and Roger Federer and
Yeah.
Novak Djokovic. And Federer, he retired a couple of years ago. Rafa more recently, probably last year, I think it was. And Djokovic now is the GOAT, right? The greatest of all time. He holds more Grand Slam titles than any other player in history. And today something happened. He was in the semi-finals. He's been kind of battling a hamstring injury for the last few weeks, but he's been able to manage it and get through. But today in his semi-final, after the first set, he walked up to his opponent, shook his hand, and said, "I'm out."
What?
And yep, he retired hurt. People visibly could not see what was going on with him. However, we can only imagine mentally what is going on in his mind as he's stepping up to serve each point and returns, and every time you see him kind of twist and he sort of twinges a little bit, like the internal
Mm.
battle that he's going through, and then making that decision, I'm out. So
In
before we're
front of
talking
everybody.
about, yeah, people talking about, before we're mentioning making a decision to do something, go onto a roller coaster, go skydiving. And there's also another aspect, sometimes making a decision to stop something, which is probably even more difficult for a super champion such as that. And something interesting happened. As he was exiting the court, the crowd started to boo him. Now, this is a guy that holds more Grand Slam titles than anyone. And he's won 10 of those Grand Slams in Melbourne, Australia. So he is one of the most popular and famous people in the Australian Open tennis. And
Sure.
the crowd, maybe there was one or two people started the boo, and then it kind of spread, right? They say negativity is like it's like an infection. Eventually it becomes a disease. If one person starts booing, then more do and more do. And before you know it, the whole audience is booing him. And then his opponent got interviewed at that point, and the first thing he said is, "You should be ashamed of yourself," to the audience for booing this guy who is one of the greatest champions, not only worldwide, but in this country, in the Australian Open. And then since then, I guess there's been other people saying the same thing, not a good representation of the audience today. And think about what this guy has played and won tournaments on injuries for many, many years. So for him to reach the point where he says, "I can't do it this time," he must be in some serious pain, or he knows that there's something seriously going on. And I saw an interview with him just a few days earlier, I think it was. This is before he played the game today. And someone mentioned something to him like talent, and he said no. He said it's not about talent; it's about discipline. On those 5 a.m. starts when everyone wants to sleep in, including him, you just get up and you do it. You do the drills and you do them over and over and you do them a million times. One of my clients that I trained many, many years ago was a world champion freestyle swimmer in Australia. And we did some data analysis on his training. And we found out that he would turn over his shoulder 1.5 million times per year, like rotating the rotator cuff for
Wow.
freestyle action, 1.5 million times per year. And this is when I really started to realize the importance of technique. When you're a super athlete, even 1 millimeter of difference away from perfect technique, repeated 1.5 million times, can lead to devastating injuries. And so, some of these players and these athletes around the world have the best coaches, the best trainers, the best scientific research, to support them. But it might just be a millimeter out on their technique. And I recently, Chuck, I've also been watching some baseball videos that popped up on my social media.
Okay.
Maybe we mentioned it in the conversation one time, and then our phone's always listening. And then next thing I know,
Yeah.
I'm getting all these baseball videos and looking at some of the technique of those pitchers and the batters. Like, oh my God! And think about how many millions of times per year that they're repeating the exact same action as well. And you, as a semi-pro player yourself as well, that repetition of catching, throwing, catching, throwing, catching, throwing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you're very sweet to say, to label me as a semi-pro, by the way. Yeah, I mean, look, I think baseball compared to swimming, you probably don't have as many reps. Even pitchers are really limited because it's not a natural motion for your arm to go up and over. It's more natural to go under. So softball pitchers can pitch every day, right? Like baseball pitchers wish they could pitch every day. Baseball managers wish they could have their best pitchers pitching every day. Because it would be amazing. It would actually be better as viewers too if we could do it that way too. My dude,
Hey,
have a good day at school today, buddy.
oh, they're on their way out.
Yeah, the little delay from the snow still. So yeah, but looking back at the successes I had with baseball, it was when I had the discipline to go to the gym a little bit harder, a little bit more consistent, not go to the parties when I was in high school, just consistently training and going to the batting cages, getting the extra reps in. Hitting is probably the closest thing to what you're discussing.
Mm,
Everyone has a different swing, so to speak. So there's not a perfect form, but there is a
mm,
form for sure of getting to the ball quickly, of the launch angle, of making sure you have barrel like there's this little spot in the bat, right?
mm,
Yay big that if you hit the ball there, it's the sweet spot. And really, it does matter the angle of the bat because it'll
mm,
depend on the launch. But if you hit it there, you're going to hit it hard somewhere and likely have some good outcome. It no matter what we do in life, baseball, swimming, business, fitness, I guess it all boils down to discipline. And you go back to Brian Johnson. The guy wakes up at 4:30 every morning, goes to bed at 8:30 every night. And, he's got millions and millions of dollars. And I don't, would you do that if you had millions and millions of dollars? Like,
Most people would
I
not.
honestly would probably be traveling the world and just enjoying what the world has to offer and not being
Mm.
that obsessed with trying to live as long as I can. But, I love the fact that he's doing it because he's spearheading a topic that I think all of us could agree we'd love to live as long as we can with the loved ones that we love so much, you know? But man, the discipline that guy has, it's admirable. It's funny too because he talks about the work ethic that he needed to have, meaning like no sleep and barely any time with his family when he ran a successful tech company, which was basically like the second PayPal, right? For I forget the name of it, but he he said he'd be in interviews all the time and people would be in awe and totally respect him for the fact that he would do all-nighters as a tech startup. Like, oh, that's what you have to do. It was like entrenched in the culture of entrepreneurship is, you have to be stressed out beyond belief, which is really what he was. He was pulling all-nighters. He was pulling multiple all-nighters, and everyone was just like in awe of his discipline. So he can go the wrong way too, right? Like you can use discipline to overstress the body. I observe that this guy is the happiest he's ever been, and he's got insane discipline. So
Yeah.
I think discipline's good, but I also know that discipline, even in my own life, can turn out to be the stressor that causes a lot of issues in your life too.
Yeah, and I think the fact now that he's got some purpose that's greater than himself as well. I did see a couple of quotes from him saying that he's the most tested human on the planet. And he's very humble to say that, he's not an elite athlete. He probably doesn't have the cardiovascular fitness of, some Navy SEALs and things like that. But he's testing and adjusting as many different modalities as possible to find what's best. And essentially, he said that he's doing this for humanity. If there's some secrets that can be unlocked, he wants to be able to find them and share them with other people. So that I believe that's what gets him up every day at 4:30 a.m. On those days when he doesn't feel like getting up, he's thinking, "I'm doing this for something greater than myself."
Yeah, true. True. What a
Yeah,
motivator.
yeah. And a couple of days ago, there's been a little bit of snow where you are, and I guess that's seldom, right? You don't often
Mm-mm.
see snow there, so that was a pretty big treat. And I was very fortunate to see a lovely video of your kids in the park going down a slide. And just that process of one of your children was sitting at the top of the slide and the other one was making their way up slowly, 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 all the way to the top to get behind the other one. And then they came down together. Like that was just a golden moment. If you break that down into what was going on there psychologically for those children, the one waiting at the top for the other one, the other one going up and then coming down together and laughing about it and rolling around in the snow. Like there was so much going on there. And I thought, because I remember that day we actually had a meeting booked, right? And you said, "It's snowing today. I'm going to take the kids outside, making memories, man." And that's it. I saw just a small snippet of those memories there. Like that was a golden moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, and they enjoyed it. Unfortunately, my daughter didn't get to enjoy it for too long because then she wasn't feeling great, ended up having a fever. So poor girl.
Okay.
It was like her real first snowstorm, and then she, was only out there for like an hour or two. But
Okay.
yeah, it was fun. It was a good moment and memories certainly had.
Yeah. Well,
Trying to make as many of those as I can.
and it's only been a week since our first podcast went online, Chuck. We've had like heaps of traction. We've put it up on all over the place. We've got it up on Instagram. We've got it on Chinese WeChat. We've got it on YouTube. There's a few of them floating around, and I'm getting a lot of positive comments. A lot of people viewing and sharing as well, and even a couple of people asking questions. And I got a question here that I can share with you. We can maybe discuss this. The question actually comes from a guy named Josh in Sydney, Australia, and he says, after listening to your personal fitness journey, Chuck. He's curious about the technology aspects, like how do you see AI and digital and all of these things that we're just being bombarded with at the moment? When you are facing the crises that you have been through over these years, and you're still amongst a lot of things now as well, where do you see AI or technology fitting into this? Because we actually do work for a technology company. That's a part of what we do, and we share with people as well. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, AI is interesting, and AI is exciting and scary all at the same time. I think if we look at it from the positives, which is really the only way to look at it, is ultimately we've had one of the biggest things I think that most of us can all admit to that we've had in our lives is to know that if we had a personal trainer, if we had a nutritionist, if we had someone that was there like the wealthy Brian Johnsons of the world that would basically tell us exactly what workouts to do and what to eat and what our routine should be. We always kind of have those comments like, "Oh, if I could work out 8 hours a day like them, I'll look like them," right? I think AI is going to get us close to that without having to have, the money like Brian Johnson to do that. Now it's not, I don't think it's there yet, but you can ask ChatGPT a ton of questions that, quite frankly, you might even get the same answer, not a better answer than a personal trainer standing next to you that you're paying, $80,000 a year to train you every day, right? Now, again, I'm not saying ChatGPT is going to replace personal trainers. They really can't. Personal trainers there's a lot of value that they're bringing there with themselves. But when you're wondering if X, Y, and Z is the best set combination, or you're trying to go for muscle growth and you just have a quick question, Google, let's all agree, Google is not the best place to ask any questions anymore, because ultimately what's happening there is you're just being bombarded with ads. And what I love about AI now is you can ask it questions and you're actually getting the right answer, and you're not getting a bunch of ads and solicitation for something to buy from those answers.
Hmm.
Now with our technology company, what AI is helping us do is put together, um, a more robust, accessible fitness program. We have the trainers that are know exactly what they're doing, that are amazing at it, and that are putting together amazing workouts. Truly, all you have to do is follow what they're doing, and that's one of the best parts of having group fitness workouts is you could be in there virtually with everybody else. You're not sweating alone, and you get to follow this trainer who knows what they're doing. They put a lot of effort and time into putting that exercise together to get you the results intended for that class.
Hmm.
But man, like the information that's going to be readily available, that is already readily available to people to really educate themselves on if what they're doing, they have questions while they're doing it, man, get an answer right away. I'm using AI constantly right now, and that's in regards to health, but it's also in regards to fitness, right? So plastics, right? Like, so this isn't a direct answer to your fitness question and how it's helping Josh, but this is an example of recency for me. I know and understand that drinking out of plastics, I've I've learned throughout the years that it's very unhealthy. I've eliminated that from my diet, or from my routine years and years and years ago. Just if I can not drink out of a plastic bottle, I'm not going to. Sometimes you're traveling and you do. So I knew the benefits of that. I've never done the research on that to know plastics and why, right? How is it made? What's going on there during the transportation process that's, making it so that it's really unhealthy to drink out of plastics. So I wanted to learn and I also wanted to share. So I literally used AI to learn a lot, and regurgitate that to, bring it back to folks to share it with them. And you know what that's done? Just that alone, me knowing already that plastics are bad, I learned we have a fitness company. We have an e-commerce side of our fitness company that even sells fitness clothing. You want to know what that fitness clothing is made out of? Plastic. So hold on. Uh, yeah, I'm a little perturbed by that, right? Like, got to make some changes. I'm at the gym doing this research too, and doing some exercises, and I'm wearing plastic, right? So we're all doing things that we're all doing things that ultimately aren't healthy for us. And AI, even in a situation where I'm sort of in the industry and I maybe should know all these things, AI is even helping me learn those things. So I guess
Mm.
by default, maybe we can teach more folks about that. But I think that's how AI is going to influence us, isn't necessarily to replace anyone or anything. I think it's going to make all of what companies can do, like Studio Sweat on Demand, even better and
Mm.
allow us to empower ourselves knowledge wise, or companies like us to provide more education and make tweaks and changes so that the clothing that we have in our e-commerce store isn't plastic and you're not working out in a plastic water bottle while you're exercising. I got a quick story that I think was an aha moment for me last night, right?
Yeah.
So every morning i I drink coffee. I drink coffee black, right? I made the decision, if I'm going to drink a lot of coffee, which I enjoy, that, like, again, a mental decision I've never gone back on. Would I prefer to have cream in it and sugar in it? Yes. But I literally, as soon as I first started my career in business, I remember walking over to the coffee pot saying, you know what? If I'm going to do this like 2 or 3 cups a day, I'm not doing it with creamer and sugar because I know that's bad for me, right? Even 20 years ago, I knew it was bad for me. So I pour black coffee into a cup and I take the kids to school. And I do it in this cup right here, right? Little Starbucks. They're not sponsoring us, by the way, because I'm about to talk some smack on them. But this G stands for Georgetown. Georgetown is where my son got his transplant. So I put it in this cup every morning. I drink the whole thing, right? Sometimes I even pour some more in there and come back to my desk and get some work done. So it dawned on me as I'm putting this in the dishwasher last night, I'm putting hot coffee in this plastic, while I'm sure it's very sturdy, into this plastic coffee travel mug. And I'm drinking it, a lot of it, multiple times a day. And I've been doing it. It's been over 3 years now since this transplant. I've been doing it in this particular type of cup almost every day, especially when we're traveling, right? And I'm like, hold on, I just literally did some research on plastics and the downside of that and wearing it when you're exercising because of the heat from your body. And I'm putting hot coffee in this and drinking out of this. What am I doing? What am I doing? So these are getting thrown away. But the irony in this is, guess where I got this from? From the hospital where my son got a transplant. You would think a hospital would probably know better than to give you poison.
Yeah, yeah, they probably don't. And it's one of those things that I guess if it's out of sight, out of mind, and some things are so small and like so minuscule in our life, like 1 teaspoon of sugar in a coffee, right? You don't think about it. A friend of mine recently said he's decided to stop putting sugar in his coffee, and I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Because he calculated by putting 1 or 2 spoons of sugar in his coffee every day, it ended up being 6 kilograms of sugar, like 12 pounds of sugar by the end of the year."
Yeah.
Something like that. Like it adds up without you realizing. And I guess because I have seen some of your videos on Insta recently talking about microplastics, like these are, sugar you can see, and we still choose to turn a blind eye to it. But when we're talking about microplastics, these are things we cannot even see,
Mm-hmm.
and it's even easier to turn a blind eye to it, so to speak. And I would say that hospitals and most doctors and nurses and most medical professionals and most scientists probably don't know the information that you're talking about right now because it's a very niche, sort of bracket of information. And I'm sure there's a lot of vested interests that don't want people to know this on a mass scale as well. So
Yep.
that's why I do believe I agree with what you said. AI allows us to research things ourselves without being bombarded with bias from advertisements and things like that. And it helps to put things into context. Like I've found, the longer I've used AI, whether it's ChatGPT or some others that we use, the longer I use it, the smarter it gets. And the better it gives me answers that are contextual to my own background. So if I was to ask a question about should I be drinking a coffee in a plastic cup, it would then reference my own background, as a health and wellness professional. And, what do you recommend to your clients and blah, 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 like this. Like, it would talk about it contextually. If you were a completely different person, say you're an office worker sitting at a desk all day and you ask the exact same question, you would get a different answer because it's based on that person objectively.
Yeah. Yeah. What just dawned on me is we're talking about how we're trying to get our mind to not control our decisions, right? And you had mentioned before that the more you've continued to keep using AI, you felt like it knew you better than you knew yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
you went in there and said, "Hey, tell me about myself," and you're like, "Whoa, okay." Go back to the Brian Johnson situation that we first started off with. Maybe what AI is really going to help us do is stop letting our minds be the ones that decide everything that we do in our lives. Like we can literally check in with that, that other side of our brain that doesn't have emotion and say, should I do this? Should I get on that roller coaster? Yes, it would be a great time and you'll be safe. The statistics are 99.99999% of the time you will be safe. Get on that thing and stop thinking about it. So a lot of stop getting off autopilot of a lot of the bad decisions that our minds make for us.
Yeah. In my opinion, with AI's integration into the fitness industry, I only see it as a positive. If you trace back people's fear of technology over the last so many decades, first it was video killed the radio star, and then when the iPod came out, people thought that would be the death of the music industry. No, and video was not the death of the radio industry. There's more people listening to audio, podcasts, and music now than there ever was in history. And now the fear is AI is going to take people's jobs. And in the fitness industry, I can speak from the fitness industry perspective because that's my industry. I would say it just enhances what we're able to do. The things that would typically take longer time to be able to sit down. Like I used to sit down every Sunday night and spend 4 or 5 hours writing out all of my programs for my clients for the next week. So now that time can be compressed and I can say, update Chuck's program for his class on Wednesday based on the results he got from last week's class. And then boom, 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 it's done in like 10 seconds. So that's going to speed up that part. And in the fitness industry, the term personal training, I always emphasize to people, personal is the most important part of that phrase, right? Personal trainer, whatever, I can train for us.
True.
But personal, that can never be replaced. That human interaction, that person who can empathize with the client when they roll up on a day and the trainer can see there's something sagging in their shoulders, their posture's out a little bit, they're looking deflated, they don't have the same energy and enthusiasm in their voice, and you can ask them what's going on, tell me about your day. And then they can share with you what's happened to them throughout the day. And then you can make decisions based on that. What's the best thing for us to be doing today? I just posted an article a few days ago on LinkedIn. I remember a client saying to me once, Ed, I don't really feel like exercising today. Can we just go for a walk? And I said, fine by me. So we went for a walk. The client was able to talk to me for 45 minutes and tell me all about what's going on in their life and their work. And at the end of the class, we sat down, we did a little stretch and shoulder massage. And then the client said, Ed, I feel fantastic. Thank you. It's well worth the money. And you know what I did for that day? I just listened, accompanied the client and listened to them objectively and without any judgment. And maybe I was the first person for that entire week that was able to do that for them, just have someone to listen to. And so I think in our industry, that is something that will never be able to be replaced.
Yeah, great point. Great point.
And, Chuck, I reflected a lot on our chat last week. And for those who are tuning in for the second time, there were some compelling stories there. If this is your first time to listen to us, please go back and listen to episode 1 so you can have add some context to who we are, and in particular, Chuck's journey. We did talk about 4 incredible moments in your life that were life and death situations, and your ability to callous your mind, quoting Dave Goggins there, callous your mind. And each time you were faced with the next situation that was even maybe more serious or equally as serious as the one you'd already gone through, that you had made yourself stronger. And I use the term stronger in many different ways. They're not just physically stronger, but mentally and emotionally as well. And we didn't get through everything last week. We talked about the IVF, that your children come from IVF and they're twins, even though they're 2 years apart. And then the birth of your son, Chandler, and then that in itself was an experience where there was some serious complications that happened there for your wife and also for your son. And then further to that, discovering that Chandler needed a liver transplant, and fortunately, you being able to donate that for him. So, I'm brushing over these things, but
Yeah.
obviously, the first episode we went into these a lot deeper. There's a lot to unpack there. And then maybe you can sort of take it from there and go a little bit further, because we did say last week, we left you with the cliffhanger last week. There's more to come. Trust
Yeah.
me. Do you mind just sharing us a little bit more about the more recent years? Let's say the last 1 to 2 years of what's been happening in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Around this time last year, went for a physical and they felt a lump in my neck. And then multiple tests, they discovered that I had thyroid cancer. So it was another bump in the road, and ultimately at that point, as soon as I found out about there even being a tumor there, we didn't know if it was cancer or not yet. Something dawned on me where I knew I had to seek alternative medicine options. And then it clicked for me after seeing this alternative nutritionist and what they call them in the US functional doctors, is that there's really three types of medicine in the US. You have the surgeons that save lives. We need those. You have the primary care physicians that treat or diagnose. We need those. But you go to those once a year systematically, not to prevent illness, not to prevent disease, but to find out if you have anything that needs then treatment, right? There's never been any advice from primary care physician, and I can look back on the fact that I've had a thyroid disease, an autoimmune disease, since college. I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is normally common in women, but one out of every 5 million men or something like that get it, and somehow got it myself. It's where your immune system attacks your thyroid, thinking it's a foreign invader, and it doesn't produce the hormones that you need for your body to do what it needs to do and be healthy. I was sleeping through 11 a.m. classes in my senior year of college, and I didn't even go out the night before. I kept doing that, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And after some blood work, they found out Hashimoto's. And every single year, what primary care did is they treat it. They treat the diagnosis. They don't discuss any prevention. They're not trained for prevention. So we go to our doctors trusting that we're going to go there and we're going to get good medical advice. Well, you'll get good medical advice from primary care physicians on how to treat a disease or treat an ailment, not to prevent those. And forever, I thought, okay, I'm just going to take this hormone replacement pill because my thyroid's not working. And I'm just going to probably have to do that for the rest of my life. And then I don't know, maybe that plus the COVID vaccines that who knows what was in them, plus the stress that was compounding because I'm investing in this large business, trying to grow it, and I'm not really able to leave a job to do it. So I'm basically doing two full-time jobs, and I have a young family at home that's already stressful. So I don't know if I had a chance to really constantly breathe. I think stress was the biggest factor, to be honest with you. And I'm still trying to figure out how to reduce that and still strive to reach goals and not have fear overtake things. You know what I mean? So I'm in a big conflict or battle with myself right now on how do I reduce stress, but also work hard, right? So I guess we'll be going through that journey together on this vodcast, because I'm going to seek out answers for that. But with going to see a functional doctor, it really was an eye opener. And I think also maybe the reason that I needed to go through that, right? We talked about deciding on how to interpret what happens to us in life, and that equals your reality. I've decided, because I think it is so true, that I was meant to go through all these things to be here today, talk about that journey. I don't think you and I would decide to even have a podcast to share our health and fitness journey if, quite frankly, I probably wouldn't have even thought to be open to this if I haven't gone through all the health challenges that I've gone through.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Chuck, one thing we did mention last week that everybody does have a story. You know, everyone's got a story, and the complexity and the depth and the seriousness of those stories may vary. But when you dig deep enough, if you were to sit down for a few hours with any person, you would find out a lot about them that a lot of people don't know. I think there's a term called Johari's window. And I think it's got like four quadrants. One of them is things I know about myself and other people know about me. So that's completely open window. And the second quadrant of the window, Johari's window, is things I know about myself and other people do not know about me. And then the third quadrant is things that I don't know about myself, but other people know about me.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one is things I don't know about myself and also things that other people do not know about me. So things that are yet to be undiscovered up till now. And what you have been doing these last two sessions is opening up that second window, things that you know about yourself, and letting other people to learn about you as well. That humanizes us. I think at the end of the day, we are all here trying to do our best. We're working in an industry that is designed to help people. We're doing this business because we believe what we're doing has benefit for humanity and for society and for community. That's why we're doing this. There's a purpose that's greater than us, which is why we wake up every day and we're excited to do this. And Chuck, for those, like just now, you mentioned about the more recently having the experience with cancer, and this is an ongoing aspect right now of your health journey. This is not something that's behind you. It's something that is popping its head up from time to time as well. Do you want to maybe just give us like a real time, where are we right now with that?
Yeah. I mentally thought that it was behind me. Even as of the recording that we had last week, I had, prior to the recording of last week, actually, maybe 4 or 5 days before that, I had been trying to gain more muscle mass, right? I lost when they did the surgery. They Frankenstein me, right? And they took a lot of the lymph nodes out on this side, and I had a lot of atrophy right here. So like this muscle's gone, right? And I feel if I went when I went like this, and I'll share a picture too. This was gone. So I've been really focusing on getting my strength back. So increased the weights, started feeling the numbness right back here, and I was just working and feeling and just kind of doing this, and I felt the lump, and I fell to the ground, and I instantly my mind went to the dark place, and thankfully my my specialist got me in there for an ultrasound like right away, and he did some digging around. He's like, "Man, I don't see anything. You're good." I had the biggest sense of relief at that moment. It was maybe just as cool as jumping out of an airplane, right? And I sort of carried on with, okay, all right, like I gotta figure out this mental thing. That was my takeaway. And then I don't even know what day it was. Friday of last week, a couple of days after we recorded our first one, I got a phone call from that doctor's office, and it was a written message read by the secretary, and it was, "Hey," because while I was there, I did blood work. I was totally expecting the blood work. We followed these two blood markers, CEA and calcitonin, and those are supposed to eventually get down to close to zero. And they've been trending down since the surgery in July or June of last year. And never once gave it a thought that that would go anywhere but down. So the message was your blood levels are up again. We need you to come back in for blood work. And depending on what those blood levels are, will depend on if, additional testing. I couldn't ask any questions. I couldn't ask if this is normal. I couldn't like it was just a message given to me from their secretary to book me for blood work. So I wish the doctor would have called. That would have been nice. Because my mind for a few days, and I shared it with the world, I got scared, man. Like, does this mean it's back? I just felt the lump. You just examined it. It's not there, or it's not cancerous because it ended up being the cardiac valve. I'm not saying that right. I immediately couldn't help but have a, like, right here, couldn't swallow. I mean, I could figuratively, but I just felt this pit right in my throat that no, right? Like the worst case scenario is going to occur. And if this was regular cancer, I think I would be a lot more thicker skin about it because let's go do the radiation, let's go do the chemotherapy. Like there's like known treatments that have high success rate. I know that it's not guaranteed with those two either, but when you find out it's medullary thyroid cancer, where the C cells somehow my cells morphed into T or C cells, and well, the C cells were the ones that were, getting manipulated and turned into cancers. And they told you right off the bat that the downside of medullary is that radiation and chemo don't work. So the fear that I have is extremely high that if it comes back, I'm a goner. It's just a matter of how long I'll live until these things grow in my body and how many more surgeries I can have to like get it yanked out if they could even find it. Right. Now, fear, false evidence appearing real, that was a moment in a day where I took several hours of being scared out of my mind and almost paralyzed to the point where I didn't feel like I could get much work done. I didn't feel like I could really interact with my kids and my wife. Like it's just, I know that it was my mind that was in control, which is why back to the beginning of this podcast, I am going to try everything I possibly can to figure out how to control the mind. Right? Like I don't want to be every single year or whatever frequency. I don't want to have this roller coaster. And we feel like we plan. I feel like we planned this whole podcast episode out because you started off with the roller coaster theme park, but we didn't. Uh, you know. So, but I don't want that roller coaster of emotions, of paralyzation. Because I got a feeling that I'm going to be going through these ups and downs of the blood results for the rest of my life. That this could very well come back, and this could be what ends up taking me to the other side eventually. Hopefully, not anytime soon. But I want to be in control of how I feel about it. And at the
Mm.
time, I definitely did not feel like I was in control about it. I was suggested by my wife reach out to the surgeon that did the surgery in Tampa because I went to go see a specialist that had a lot more experience with that type of cancer to do the removal of the thyroid and the lymph nodes. She emailed me back that, hey, we only treat, basically images, and we only treat what we find. We don't treat blood results. That it's normal for some of these blood results to sort of ebb and flow. Immediately, the throat sinking, couldn't swallow feeling, which was stress, went away just from reading someone else's words in an email. How sad is that?
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
to me, I know I can do better. My mind can do better, and I can figure out how to not let someone else's words make me feel better. My own thoughts can make me feel better. But I was
So,
glad you responded back on a Saturday to, and I, just did the blood work again on a couple of days ago and got the results back yesterday. And one's higher than it was last week, and one's lower. So I don't know what to do with that. But I'm going through this thought process of bettering my mind and controlling the thoughts. I'm thinking a lot less about how what yesterday's results were being detrimental or death threatening, and I'll also getting closer to and learning more and more about faith because I feel like faith in what is in the next life will also provide some calm to my situations as they continue to go up and down.
one of the quotes uh, Chuck and I often are bantering during the week on us, whether it's through messaging or emails or calls every other day. One of the quotes that resonated last week was the quote that emotion, emotion, equals energy in motion. And the meaning of that is that emotion is essentially energy moving through our body. And I guess this is something I've learned living amongst Eastern practices for quite a few years. The usual Western approach for inflammation is to reduce the inflammation. If you got a fever, then cool your body down. If your body's cold, warm your body up. Like kind of treating the symptom and doing the opposite to what it is. But something that's a little bit different in Eastern practice is to let it flow through you. Like if you've got a fever, for example, they would not put you in a cold shower and cold compresses on you and things like that, because that's doing the opposite to what your body is naturally doing. They don't do the exact opposite effect, like they don't sweat you out, but they let it pass through you without upsetting your body temperature too much. Maybe just keeping your body comfortable, a little bit cool, and letting it flow through you. So that's like emotion, energy flowing through you. And my first experience on the roller coaster today, the first time hanging over the edge, the adrenaline rush and the fear of, and everything that's rushing through you as you're going through it. But immediately when I finished the ride, I went to my son, Nicholas. I said, Nicholas, you got to come on it. It's awesome. It's awesome. My adrenaline was pumping. And the second time we went on it, and he came with me, and then we're hanging over the edge. But I no longer had that same fear that I had the first time. I was looking at my son and hoping that he was okay. I was reassuring him, trust me, it's okay. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to be laughing about it later. So I'm sort of taking my own experience and sharing it with him to try and dissolve or reduce his anxiety that he was having. And then after, Nicholas, he's actually in the room beside me here listening. Are you having a giggle? Yeah.
He loved it.
It was good, right, Nicholas? You liked it? Yeah, he said he loved it.
Nice.
And so when we finished the second time and he finished his first time, he was loving it as well. And then he was saying to his other younger brother, Samuel, you should come on it as well. So, each person is having their experience and learning from it, and then sharing it with the next person, and then they're learning from it and sharing it with the next person as well. And it eventually gets dissolved down, those fears and anxieties that people have. If you're reaching out to people that have been through some similar experiences, then you can also maybe dissolve some of the fears as well, because other people can reassure you, hey, I've been there, I've gone through it. And just like the doctor said to you, the surgeon has seen more people than you can ever imagine that's been in the exact same situation as you. And the surgeon wasn't saying, oh my God, Chuck, get down here quickly, we need to check it out, maybe something urgent happening. No,
Yeah.
They're doing the opposite, because they know most of the time it is nothing to worry about. So, sharing that's their experience with you. And I hope that made you to feel better as well, and then also checking yourself, like the reason I mentioned about emotion, energy in motion, is that it's important to acknowledge it. Like if your body's feverish, acknowledge the fever and then work through it, let it flow through you, acknowledge the emotion, acknowledge the fear, identify it, and then say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling this. I felt this before, and then I realized it was maybe not necessary for me to have the same amount of fear level. And each time, it gets easier and easier. And, you know better than anybody from your calloused mind, from the experiences that you've been through with all sorts of, complications and challenges, that you get through it. You get through it. And you got a team that's doing it with you. You got friends, you got people all over the world sending positive energy and love to you. So, and I hope people that are watching this also share some energy to Chuck.
Yes, love it. Would love as much energy as possible. Positive energy, of course, and I'll be sending it right back.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Chuck, this kind of brings us to the end of our second session, and I'm looking forward to the third session, actually, because I think all the things that you're talking about now, you're still waiting for a little bit of information to come back. We'll know about that next time we have our episode. So we're leaving our listeners on another cliffhanger. Tune in next week to see what happens.
Yeah, more to come.
I'm sure there's more to come. Okay, all right. Thanks a lot, Chuck, and thank you for those people that are liking us and listening us. Please share and follow. Every little bit helps. We're just trying to share our authentic stories to the world and hope that it helps other people.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
Okay,
Bye.
cheers. Bye-bye.